Happy Tuesday, everybody. Rodney Wilds, how are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic.
If
I was any better, it'd have to split me in half.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we'll, okay. Dave Ramsey. So anything exciting happened last week?
Yeah, just the election. I'm glad, super glad that that's over with. It was, whether you're person one or not, boy, I tell you what, though, there's been some epic meltdowns. I don't recall as many public epic meltdowns from the losers of this race of any years that I've ever watched it. It may be because it's social media and there's more coverage now, but man, some Democrats took it hard.
I guess if anybody who's watching, we get all of our stuff on replays. I always say that because we're completely okay with that. We get it. We're free on Tuesdays at 1:00. Maybe you're not. So we love it when you stop by. Again, just to be sure, my name's Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. I'm with Rodney Wilds, my best bud. He's a loan officer here also in Williamson County, Tennessee. And we're just here to share our thoughts and our views, and nothing's carved in stone. We've got our own opinions on stuff. And if you do, we'd love it if you'd share those. So if you want to get a hold of us for one reason or another, our contact information is very easily found, description box and so forth and so on. I have to tell you that you probably, if you've watched this, you're going to probably figure out, which side of the which side of the spectrum we are. I think I've tried to keep it fair and balanced. Is that enough of a wink wink? How about that?
It's just, honestly, it doesn't matter what side it is. It's not fabricated. Like, I guess when one side loses, you're not going to see a lot of the other side, cry about it. You're going to see one side, they lost. They're the ones that's upset about it, and I get it. It's important to them and all that. It's just been the public display of it. I feel like one of my very best friends, Mike, if I lose a golf bet or something to him, and we get done, I pay him, say good job, and he hates it because I don't cry and whine about it, right? He don't call me a sore loser because my thing is I always pay real fast. That way it stings less, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I
Here's
don't complain and cry about it, but a lot of that has taken place this week, and it's and I'm like, man, y'all, honestly, the losing side needs to take a look at the map and say, hey, the American people chose this. Like, the American people are tired of those other policies. They want to change. So, you know,
here's what I figure, because I have the tiniest. I use this as a measurement. The space between my fingers is how much of an idea I have of how this actually goes. But they're just doing this just for Rodney and I to do this live stream. It frankly takes a lot more than probably people think, because we got to get our screens and stuff ready to go. I mean, this sort of fancy stuff, that we had to figure that out, and
yeah, that just don't happen overnight.
it doesn't happen overnight. That's right. And we got to pick the articles, and I go through and highlight things, and I send them to Rodney, and we talk about this stuff. It takes a minute, and I have to think now. This is just my belief for the shows that I've been watching, and I've been doing. It's like I've never watched less Fox News in my life. I've been watching everybody else, because I just want to see how they'll respond. And it's not a Schadenfreude thing where I feel good about them feeling bad. That's not what it is. I'm just trying to watch what they're doing. And it seems to me they had and I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think that they had their game plan put together on all of those shows. When she wins, this is the program, this is how the show's going to go. And we're going to have a celebration for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a year, or whatever. And when it didn't turn out that way, all of a sudden, they had a blank slate. They had to come up with, what the hell are we going to do now, I'm amazed by it.
It's been pretty entertaining this week. Honestly, it's been entertaining.
I have to say that I've been very impressed with a lot of folks that have come to terms. I hope you don't mind talking about this, do you? You okay with this, Rodney?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with. There's some introspection going on, when they started to say, we apparently we don't get it. We're sending out this message. Like, there's this one guy, I won't mention names because that would be making things personal. But there's this one congressman, he was laying out all the things that the administration had done, had been successful at. And the person on another network, not Republican friendly, let's just say it that way, the the narrator or the host on that show asked him, said, well, how come none of that was hitting the mark? None of that message was received at all, and he goes, I don't know. Because they're pointing at these documents, here, look at these documents and how that is a sexy document right there, No. Oh, God. Well, this is your chance. Show's all yours. What else you got to say about that? Anything?
No, I'm good. It's like I said, it's hopefully I'll say this. I think it's the first time that that a Republican president has won the most Latino votes, or it's a significant increase in Latino and Black votes. And the way I look at that is, like, the whites, the blacks, the Latinos, we're all together now. Let's go. Let's stop all this division and white black stuff. I mean, you get as old as I am, you realize everybody's inside. The inside of your skin's the same color, right? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
And hopefully the country comes together. I mean, they voted for the president, right? It's not, the country is not so divided as it has been over the past few years.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I love seeing the different us and white people, black people, and Latinos all kind of choose. I hope it creates more unity as we move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, for this moment in time, there's a majority of us pulling in the halter at the same time. I mean, the majority of us are in agreement. Is that going to last very long? Probably not. Somebody's going to step in it, and offend somebody, and things will fragment. But for a second, for a minute, we're all pulling in one direction. I tell you the thing that surprised me. I don't know why it surprised me. It shouldn't have. But when it was happening, what I was talking about was the response from Letitia James, for one, and Kathy Hochul, her response. Gavin Newsom seems to have moderated a little bit. He was kind of going off that, we're not going to do anything to help him. Seems to have moderated pretty quick. Seems like he came around. But when they were saying, in essence, I don't care what the vote says, we're going to fight this guy anyway. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. You know?
Right.
I'm like, isn't that? And I don't mean this to be cruel, but you lost. That the people have spoken, and it's not your group, it's our group, or whatever that means.
Yeah.
I was a little. I think that was revealing. Angie, how are you doing, young lady? Our California friend has made it. No, you're perfect. Good to see you. Good to see you. I was a little disappointed with that Letitia James and Kathy Hochul thing. I kind of understand I'm trying to understand where they're coming from. Did you have an opinion on that?
I'm not sure exactly. I think I read some stuff on Kathy, but the Letitia James thing is, she's in a terrible spot. Personally, I have my own opinion about what went down with that and why she was at the White House meeting with Biden and them. It was over that Trump stuff. So, she missed the mark on that. She's probably going to have she's probably, she's probably going to have to buckle down to even keep her job, I would assume. You know what I'm saying? With a new administration coming in, I don't think she's appointed. But I don't think she's going to be trying to sue people for the things that they did on that, like they did.
Well, and at least I'll tell you what, the one thing, and then we'll get off this. I was just saying I was a little disappointed with that response, which who cares? She didn't care about me. I did text her though. I'm not above, little X action. When you think about what she was selling when she was getting elected, her platform was, I'm going to get Trump. That was her platform, so at the very least, the woman's consistent,
Yeah. I don't think she'd get voted in with that platform. I think that platform's dead now. I think that they just rode that one till the wheels fell off, and they're going to actually have to come up with some policies. They have beat us. Democrats have beat Republicans over the head with schools and healthcare and things like that, and they just abandoned that in the working person. And they abandoned that and just attacked. But that's a bunch of nonsense. It's over with. I'm glad it's over with. Even if the Republicans hadn't won, I'm glad it's over with. I'm so sick of the name calling, the mudslinging, and the ads. The ads are awful.
But I'm telling you, I just, for one, and I guess you have to pick a side, and so I'm going to pick a side. I was relieved because the stuff that you see, the antithetical stuff that you see happening. I don't think that's the right word. The stuff that you see happening outside the lines, like there was, and it probably still is, but there was a large group of people moving in walking up from the South, from Colombia, whatever. There's a group of, it's just immigrants. As I think that's it's okay to say that.
Yeah.
But there was a large group, and then the election takes place. He wins, and like half of them bailed already. They're like,
there's going to be a ton of self-immigration. there's going to be a ton of self-immigration where, everybody's worried about the cost of immigration to get them out, um, and I'll let them decide on that, but I really have no thoughts on that. But either way, I do know one thing: the cost of immigrants overrunning, or not overrunning, but coming in the pace they are now,
Oh my.
it is devastating to our economy. It's not close to the cost of removing them and keeping our border safe. I mean, our
There
country
was
will be 10 times better off.
I, I have to agree and let things go naturally, because there's gonna always be people trying to bolt across the border. That's okay. But if the majority of folks are trying to do it the correct way, whatever that means, let this natural flow kind of take place. I found it interesting that when they were talking about the immigration situation and how the sanctuary cities before the Abbott got the bus idea. Before that happened, all these sanctuary cities are like love and peace and rainbows, and we love everybody, and come stay at our place, until he started shipping them into town. They were like, wait.
Yeah.
You can stop now. That's when faced with the reality, they changed their mind, and then they wanted the feds to pay up. So I just
Hey,
thought that was interesting.
you looking at Angie's question here?
I am
She
now.
she said, "So glad it's over and the stupid commercial's gone." I 100% agree with that. Wonder if we could put in a thing that where they have to go back to like the Bud Light frogs and have to do their presidential commercial in the Bud Light frogs. That way they're, the what's up, that way they can't get all negative towards each other.
Yeah, I'm gonna say don't be worried at all, because that's not what they've been really clear on what it is that they're after, and it's um, people that are a danger. And I think that is going to be a large list of folks, So, oh, shit, that's
Come
not
on,
funny,
Andy.
because I did not.
You take everything so literal.
You're funny. You're really funny.
Way to
You're going to
get
get
him, man.
strongly worded text from me, young lady. That had me going there. So on that note, oh yeah. Pip. There it is.
All right. Here we are. Look at this. We are still. This is after two Fed rate lowers the rate, right? So we again today you can see there was a lock alert today at 12:26. The market has gotten worse by 40 basis point, and you can see here right next to it. I always track the 10-year Treasury versus the Fed funds rate that they just lowered last week, another quarter of a point. So you can see it's up 9 basis points, and when the 10 years up, mortgage-backed securities tend to go the opposite direction. So again, we're in a mode where we're locking rates ahead of any kind of increase in pricing, but overall, it's still standing in this. Still taking it on the chin a little bit after, from the time frame perspective, after that first Fed funds rate cut by half a point. It's still kind of so. Like I said, we don't follow the Fed funds rate, but I think it sets policy long term for us. It's always a good thing. And then if you're a consumer and you have a credit card or a HELOC or anything, you're getting, that's another quarter percentage off of that you just got last week. So it's a good sign for us. It means the Fed is doing what they can to help get rates back in perspective or a little bit better. It's the market's just not allowing it right now. I mean, that's all I can say.
Yeah, and I was listening this morning to the business channel, and they were suggesting that the market meaning the stock market and those guys, they actually had kind of predicted a Republican win. And so, I mean, they had sort of built things in. And so today the stocks have dropped a little bit because the surprise is over. You know, it went up what, a couple of grand a couple of days ago, you know, but I'm pretty happy about things. We'll see how things go, you know? But anyway, so the things that I wanted to talk about today, and I think that it would be kind of cool. And there was an article I was going to bring in today, but that was like PhD stuff, and I just didn't have the brain capacity for it this morning. Not that I ever do. But the first, there was 2 articles, and this was the teaser for our thumbnail, was Trump's won, so now what now about housing? So let's go through some of this stuff. And I know that you're going to have a ton of opinions on this, Rodney, so just cut me off whenever things are good, and our flow bandwidth is really good. So Donald Trump returns to the White House is unlikely to offer much relief. This is the first line, and this is from Newsweek. Now, I would say Newsweek is a centrist type of magazine versus some of that are, you know, one way or the other. Newsweek tends to be centrist, I believe. So Trump's return to the White House is unlikely to offer much relief to Americans struggling with soaring home prices. I have to agree with that for sure. Stubbornly high mortgage rates and growing housing costs as policies could make home building more expensive and push mortgage rates even further as we go up. As we go through this, there's things that they talk about, and I'm going to give you one of these when I read it without tipping off my point to this, by the time I get to the article, that I thought was very revealing. The lack of affordability in the U.S. housing market has been a major issue during the election cycle, and one that both candidates tried to address in their agenda, though in significantly different ways. While Harris promised to build millions of homes, which that's a heavy lift, offer financial aid, which everybody's tried to do, to first-time buyers, and ease regulations on building, Trump suggested that through reducing illegal immigration, he could free millions of homes for American citizens, reducing demand on the supply-tight market. Throughout the election, Trump has pointed to housing affordability as a big problem. Wow. And he said that it wants to lower mortgage rates and loosen building regulations to boost supply. He also wants to lower immigration to reduce housing demand and privatize government-sponsored enterprises, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. I wonder if Phil's on here today. What does that mean? Privatize GSEs.
All right, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac service or fund, I don't know, it may be 80% or something like that, something crazy of all conventional mortgages. So they're pretty much the backers of the U.S. housing market, Fannie and Freddie, the GSEs, government-sponsored enterprises. Now, before the crash, Fannie and Freddie was private. I mean, they were privately. You know, they wrote the guidelines for the housing. You know, the lending rules and all that, but they were private. The government come in and bailed them out right at the crash and took them over. Now, since then, they have made a fortune. They have paid back every government cent that they borrowed, and they've made a fortune since then. They made a kill. Remember that they were GSEs when our last refi boom just went through. You know, so right. It was years long. So now it's time that, that I guess Trump may be thinking it's time to go back to private. And I don't know how they do that. I don't know if the owners beforehand I don't know how any of that works. But I do know that I personally like being either too big to fail or the government backing. Like, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that is our housing market.
That's the backbone of it, and people in Europe say that's the difference maker.
Yeah, I mean that's unbelievable that Fannie and Freddie does what they do. So it's like just a huge plus for Americans to have this out there, somebody that backs our housing market. Um, and so yes, they are too big to fail. So that's over. And you know, the was able to withstand that time, and since then they've come back and paid and made a fortune after that.
Now, are they in conservatorship? Is that is that true?
Well, like the government conservatorship,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
still may be considered that or whatever, but yeah, I
And that
mean,
and that's a
I don't know the
protective.
technical, but
Isn't that in a way? Isn't that a protective device? That I don't know that that's what it was. Why they're there? I think it was they're there because they were in trouble. I think it was probably part of the years
yeah, I
ago.
think conservatorships just when somebody's taking you over. I don't know what all those laws protect, and if it protects the principals or or the people coming in. I'm sure it has to do with a lot of that, but
Yeah,
um, it's still operated. I know that the GSE still, Fannie and Freddie still operated. The government, kept them going, and to me, without Fannie and Freddie, there is no housing market.
yeah.
If Fannie and Freddie went away, I'd probably retire the next day. I'm like, I don't know what would happen.
Um, After Trump's victory on Wednesday, and with Republicans taking back control of the Senate and potentially the House, I'd like to know what the heck is taking so long with the House. I am beyond confused about that. Hang on, can you pull back screen? This is to you. Taking back control of the Senate, potentially the House. We're all in a wait and see mode, which, man, oh man. I mean, here we go. We're going to start talking about, because now we're talking about, my gears are shifting into the housing market, wait and see mode. People are going to use, and I get it. All of us are going to use anything we can to procrastinate without pulling the trigger in order to get our best deal. Plus, we're deep into November already. We're looking at the Thanksgiving. You can smell the turkey from here already. Housing is going to be, listings are going to start dropping, and then we're headed right into the Christmas holidays. I mean, everybody's going to be stopping and waiting. I wish the House would get settled. I really do. I mean, the House of Representatives. Wait and see mode to see the economic policies. We got to wait and see what this guy does. Realtor.com chief economist Danielle Hale. She's really smart. We always talk about Realtor.com and NAR and those guys, how they're sort of sunny on the housing market. Danielle Hale is one that I think shoots pretty straight. If it's looking tough, she's going to tell us that it's tough. I trust this person. She said, despite a strong mandate from voters, Letitia, hey, Miss James, the impact on the housing market remains a toss-up. The main problem facing the housing market is a historic lack of supply. You should see, in Nashville, Davidson County, we're in Williamson County, which is Brentwood, Franklin, that kind of stuff. We're south and to the west just a bit. But Nashville is our home turf for anybody watching from out of town. It's central to us. The supply, the inventory, supply and demand in Davidson County is nearly 6 months. It's
Wow.
5.66 months.
Yeah.
5.66 months. If you did a rolling 30, it's like 5.2 or something like that. But
Yeah.
last month, we haven't seen 6 months in Nashville. That you'd have to bust out the historical charts for that, I think.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
It's been a minute, and of course, for anybody that's like into housing, that's what they call that. I don't know if this is true anymore. They call it a balanced market, where the buyer and seller they don't have any undue stress on either side. There's not an overflow of buyers, so that sellers can raise prices and vice versa. It's just balance is what they say. But this is where you'll get what they say is the closest to market value is now with when it's close to 6 months. Is that actually true? I don't know. It's still Depends. The main problem facing the housing market is a historic lack of supply caused by years of underbuilding after the financial crisis of '07 and '08. This is a shortage on the order of 2.5 to 7.2 million homes accumulated over the last decade. Damn, that's a lot.
A lot.
That's a lot. I mean, think that's a lot of mortgages there, buddy. You could do well with that. This has contributed to a run-up in home prices and rents that have eroded affordability for both home buyers and renters. And all we're talking about there is supply and demand. No inventory, your prices are going to go up. All experts Newsweek, now we're going to get into the meat of this. All experts Newsweek talked with agree that mortgage rates are likely to rise in the short term to medium term after Trump takes office. Well, and this was put together, this article, on November 11th, so it was yesterday. I try to stay on top of this stuff. In the short run, mortgage rates could rise due to less focus on budget deficit and expanding tax cuts. Lawrence Yun, he's the chief economist, president of research at the National Association of Realtors. So we got all the sunny guys in this group. At the moment, mortgage rates are still inching up. And what is it today? I was looking at this. It's well, it dropped down 10 basis points since we started.
Okay.
It was 702 when we got started. It's 692 now. So, yay!
By the end of the show, we'll be a 6.5.
That's right. If we just keep, it's you, Rodney. You keep talking, keep motivating these guys. At this point, I don't want the reserve to cut anymore. It's I don't like what they're doing. While high mortgage rates are considered linked to the market anxiety over the result of the election, rates have remained high even after Trump declared winner. From now on, mortgage rates could either rise or drop, depending on which policies Trump chooses to prioritize once in office and how the U.S. economic conditions evolve. Here we go. If the economy, what I liked about the article is they're pretty non-committal.
Yes.
How do you think the rates are going to go? Could go up, could go down,
Yeah.
Could have written 2 paragraphs and been done with it, If the economy weakens, rates will drop as the Fed will cut more. If the economy remains strong, rates will still stay elevated. And the more tariffs or cuts are increased, the higher rates will go. If those plans are scaled back, rates to drop. Now, the tariff stuff I find is interesting because I think he's got a pretty good grasp on what to do with that versus when people talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that a couple things they can throw away in this article are, one, the effect that the tariffs has. I mean, because that is a huge guess. And the tariffs that he put in place last time, the incoming party left them in place and spent the money that they were making, right? So the tariffs are, when people talk about the tariffs and mortgage rates, it is to, and the second thing is a housing supply. This keeps mentioning housing supply, but yet you just threw in there Davidson County is at, almost 6 months.
Yeah.
Our housing supply has been rising for the last 6 to 7 months. And it's going, it looks like it's going to continue to do so, probably throughout the winter. Elevated rates is stopping the mortgage markets. Okay. And either president coming in short term to midterm, who knows what the effect is on the rate, because the biggest problem we have right now in housing is affordability. And that is the price of your house and your mortgage rate. Pretty much boils down to it. So if the economy is doing good, it's going to continue to elevate our mortgage rates. But if the economy starts to weaken, like job gains and things like that we've seen in the past, we'll start seeing a lot of. We'll get in line. The mortgage rates will get in line with the Feds and the other rates they're lowering and start coming down some. But because housing supplies is getting better. Like housing supply a year ago was terrible. Today it's getting better. Like if you're in Nashville looking, you got five plus months availability there. That's a lot.
That
Uh,
that's a lot. In the
yes,
early 2000s, it was literally 3 weeks. I mean, there was less than one, inventory. Things were flying off shelves. Now, the bad news is the reason the inventory is growing is just what you said. People can't afford to buy them. So they're going to sit there until
right.
people are motivated to buy them, You're
I
100%
think it'll continue to. Well, I think across the country with the elevated rates, our inventory is going to continue to grow.
Yeah. Lighter regulation. Now, this is what gets me. I get excited about with regulations, and I'm not. I've got to stop this apologizing stuff. I don't like this heavy regulation stuff that that seems to have gone on for. It seems to be it's not a Republican thing. I'll just say it that way. I mean, the regulations. When I talk to people moving from California, hi Ange. When I talk to people moving out there, prices is one thing, but the cause of the pricing is there is this one guy. He came out and he was in business. He said, "You wouldn't believe the taxes that I get, the expenses just from being regulated. It's so expensive just because of regulations, and that's just got to be a blue thing. We just call it that." I know later on we're going to get trolled and kind of get beat up, but we've got the band hammer. We've got the power. But I like the regulation is going to, he's going to, how do you feel about Elon Musk getting involved with, it sounds to me almost like line item stuff.
Elon Musk is a genius. Like the dude's building, I mean, he outproduced NASA. Think about that. I mean, honestly, SpaceX, he had a business that wasn't government regulated, and he is sending stuff into space left and right, and NASA's taken years to do it. So Elon Musk is a genius. I personally like him because he's quite funny. Like if you follow his tweets or whatever, he's always getting into it with somebody, and it's hilarious. He's actually funny. He's a billionaire with a sense of humor. But I'm kind of weird. I may like somebody because of their personality on X, right? So, but no, I really like it. And then, the dude builds Tesla, and we all know that. And he does SpaceX, and then he does this thing, Boring Company, that he's got a road going from like Los Angeles to Vegas or something underground. And then he makes it like a $300 flamethrower. I'm just like, this dude is off the chart.
I think he stopped selling those, didn't he? He went on and said, don't buy these.
Yeah. I mean, so anyways, but yeah, I love anybody who is smart and frugal, because that's a big difference between Republicans and Democrats. Democrats tend to be spenders and all that, and Republicans tend to be, they may spend, but it's definitely going to be on different stuff than what the Democrats. So
full disclosure, we have our first dissenter, and I think that the Musk thing pushed somebody over the edge. So lighter regulation and tax incentives for home builders. Some of the policies Trump discussed during his election campaign included lightening up regulation around home building and offering tax incentives to those looking to increase inventory. People that are really smart in the building industry said about the only way you can increase home building is through tax incentives. Not the only way, but that seems to be a real positive way to do that, to help these builders put together homes and make it profitable and possible for everybody, so that the people have the homes they want at a price they can afford, and they are talking about tax incentives. I'm to look to increase inventory. Realtor, they shared estimates suggesting, get this, the total cost of regulations, get this, I couldn't believe this. I'm vamping on this because I was like, what? Federal, state, and local levels of government add more than $90,000 to the price of a new home. And hit that link, and it's $90,000 to the price of I think it was like a $400,000 home, or 300, yeah, 400,000, $90,000 to a $400,000 home. That's 25%, man. That's a bunch. Regulations.
Yeah.
Some of them are good. You got to have appraisals. You got to have inspections. You got to have codes and stuff like that. But man, oh man, like, I've never built a new home, but I know that by the time you get done with impact fees and all the rest of it, God, dog, and who's going to pay for that? You know who is.
Right. The buyer always pays. Right. And some of those fees you're talking about, that's not even talking about some of the stuff you just mentioned is on my side. And that 90,000 is not, that 90,000 is their cost. Our cost has went up significantly. But like for them, the price of lumber's went up 250% since the last 5 years. So, but for us, it's the regulation. And that's, I think we've been on this topic a couple times, and I've always said, the president can't do much. Like, they can't come in and wave a wand and all of a sudden our rates are good. This is
Right.
a mortgage-backed security, it's a stock on the stock market kind of, so
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
president's
Yeah.
going to say, going to change that. What's got to change is the economic conditions that we have for rates to come down, and less regulatory would be awesome. I work at a bank, First Bank. It's a very big bank. And when I worked at smaller banks, I think the smaller banks are regulated pretty bad as well. There's a regulator in this bank pretty much 24 every day for 365 days, whether it's HUD, whether it's FDIC or somebody else. And then we have to regulate ourselves, especially on the mortgage side. I know we do pre-closing, post-closing before anybody else ever regulates us, or audits us. So
and God forbid you miss something.
yeah, it's not terrible. They understand it, and we run and actually this company runs so good, and our reputation's good, and we have relationships with these people. And so if there was a mistake, I don't want to say that, but we take it very seriously to where we work with them, to where there's really not a lot of issues, because this is something you work together with them versus, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I wasn't speaking about First Bank at all. What I meant was lenders in general. There's rules they have to follow, and if you break the rules, you don't want to do that. That's
there's some if you break, it's a significant penalty. And there, typically has to be some kind of malice behind it, or you're taking advantage of a customer or something. But it's just the operational cost to do a loan is it's quadrupled since the early 2000s.
Yeah, and I bet you the Dodd-Frank thing made things considerably more
complicated. It probably doubled that time, but it's each time, and there's a lot of good stuff come from Dodd-Frank. There's a lot of 100%. Stuff that I love for the customers to get, but some of it is just, it's expensive. I mean, it's just, that's all there is to it.
But it, for as far as that goes, with Dodd-Frank, what they did was they made these changes so that when people got loans, they were legit. That's, if you were to sum it all up in one sentence, I think that's pretty much it.
That you are a qualified buyer. Dodd-Frank has, they got all kinds, but the one section when it regards to underwriting qualified mortgages, yes, it is. That is a huge difference maker in how good that's why Fannie and Freddie are doing so well, is because all these loans are performing now.
And the reason I bring that up, because on my side, it used to be, back in the day, you would go through a couple of years where you'd come to contract a dozen times or so, and they would fall apart because ultimately the buyer didn't qualify. Somehow they would slip through the cracks or whatever. I haven't seen, unless it's somebody's done it on purpose. And I mean, somebody really wanted out of a contract and willing to give away the earnest money, you know. I very rarely see deals fall apart because somebody missed something. It's just, that doesn't seem to happen much anymore. And I am very well plugged in with the real estate industry. So
Yeah.
that doesn't happen very often. I wanted to mention this, and this is just an example of what I'm talking about. I heard this the other day and I was like, they've got to have that wrong. That can't be. Man.
So California's, the governor or whoever that is, just they're expecting this party to get the gas prices down so they can put more tax on it.
Oh man. Oh wow, that's quite a.
I tell you that you need to. I've seen something. I don't know how real it was, but it's the number of taxes that's been created since our government's been created. It's crazy. It's like the how many times that they've created a tax.
Oh man, there's. You know, it's amazing how many taxes there are, and still things are reasonably affordable. Imagine if they got off our backs a little bit. My God, this would be what a wonderful thought experiment, you know. Lighter regulation and tax cuts could certainly help builders build more homes, which would ultimately benefit home buyers. However, many of the regulations that affect home builders are controlled by local governments. Everybody's got to have their fingers in the pie. So the federal government is limited in its ability to affect those builders, though it could certainly lean on local governments to relax regulations. We see that happen all the time. It's like, you know, if you don't do this, you know, that funding you were going to get, the federal funding for the road going through here, not happening. That's how you lean on local governments, you know. Some of Trump's campaign promises for improving, I think this is getting to where we go. Might only get through one article today. Yep. Some of Trump's campaign promises for improving the country's economy, increasing tariffs, imported goods, and curbing immigration are likely to bring up the cost of building new homes in the U.S., according to experts, at a time when Americans desperately need more inventory to improve affordability. If Trump increases tariffs on inputs to building a house, for example, lumber, then the cost of building a home will increase. I think he's what does he do for a living? He builds stuff. He's not. He's he's kind of like responsible for a fairly large chunk of the skyline in New York, you know, and
but
wherever.
He's making sure he gets a steel when he gets a steel from wherever steel plant it is, because he's not using much wood.
That's not much wood. That's true. Well, even a build out, he has to use. Well, maybe.
But I'm thinking a lot of our wood still comes from the United States. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of tariff on lumber.
And that's my point. And that's when he said specifically, he says there's ways to use tariffs temporarily. And it's not like you're going to put on a tariff and have it there for the end of time. You know, that's where he sees things. He uses it as a tool, a temporary stop that. You know, it's a little hammer. Similarly, if construction labor costs increase, here we go. Similarly, if construction labor costs, I'll get to that in a second. Wait. Okay, here we go. As you know, on the other side of the regs thing is having a house where the wiring is going to, to be fair, now I mentioned the codes and things were important, and I'm not knocking anything. I don't want to be seen as I'm back to the balance thing. I get that, Philip. 100% on board with all that stuff.
Yeah, in the regs, I'll give you some examples of regs. It's like what they've done, but pre 2005, pre Dodd-Frank, you could have a processor that would process 40 files. After Dodd-Frank, there was so much more regulation and documentation, and everything needed to be added. It probably dropped that number down to comfortably around 15. So just in that process, just the documents the different documents you had to get and the way you had to do them was uh, a lot of intense, manpower that increased the cost significantly to a mortgage. And that's the ones I'm talking about. And it didn't, you know, I've always said we underwrote people when underwriting wasn't cool. We would underwrite people. I've always worked for a bank, and in that period come in there where nobody wanted to be underwritten when those, all those loans come out with no income, no asset, and things like that. And that's what sunk the market in that housing crash, because a lot of these arms and things that people just bought the house, they didn't pay down much on it, and then the house went backwards, and then their rates changing. What I mean by house went backwards is like it declined in value. Say they owed 100,000, now it was worth 90,000. They owed 100, and then they had a terrible loan, so they walked away from these houses by the millions, and that's what did it. But we don't need to deregulate to where people end up doing like you're saying. That's the exact opposite of not having codes or not having home inspections and things like that. But some regulations on just how we have to document our paperwork it would be nice.
I agree, and I mean that's going to be a hard line to draw. I mean, but
I think Trump. I think they got it figured out. I mean, this is not a new anything new. These two parties have been heavy regulation and deregulation, so it's not the first time. And then Trump and his people, the experts on that stuff, they're not going to take in my opinion, they're trying to deregulate so people can build. I don't see them really touching the mortgage stuff. I see them deregulating so my bank can give builders money a little bit faster and a little bit timelier manner without all the rules attached, besides the note and deed of trust.
I agree. And I'm really, because I'm in the industry, I'm really excited about what's going to happen, because I just am. So let me get this, and then we'll be done with this section. And I want to make my point. Similarly, we're continuing with the same article. Similarly, if construction labor costs increase because there are fewer construction workers because immigration restrictions, the cost of building a home will also increase, she added. Whether those increases are passed on to home prices depends on market conditions. It may just be that builders build less workers, less. Okay, got that. She also said that, this is Danielle Hale, also said Trump's efforts to improve affordability by curbing illegal immigration could backfire, leaving the home building sector short-staffed and consequently increasing the cost of housing. In the short run, reducing immigration could severely hurt the labor supply needed for new home building, since up to a third of residential construction employment consists of foreign-born workers. I'm getting ready to go off. I can almost barely sit here. In the long run, reducing immigration could lead to negative population growth in the U.S., since the total U.S. fertility rate nationally in the U.S. sits at 1.67. Elon Musk actually talked about that a couple of years ago, that our birth rate in the U.S. is too low. You know what to do, America. Well below the population sustaining rate of 2.1. In other words, without immigration to fill the population replacement gap, the country would likely see falling aggregate demand for housing. The consequences of that could include a reduction in homeowner equity via failing home prices, and a contraction of employment in the home building sector, which could have spillover effect to the broader economy. In the short term, almost done. Essentially, not much is expected to change after Trump returns to the White House. Kill me now. Home prices are likely to continue climbing as supply remains tight, and volatile mortgage rates are expected to make both buyers and sellers cautious. That's reasonable. In the long term, things could get better or significantly worse. What the bleep?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
need
makes
to
you
get
feel
a
like, why
bleep
did I
button
read
there.
this article? Yeah.
But that would depend. But then it could get better or significantly worse. But that would depend on what Trump decides to prioritize once in the White House. Yeah. Here comes my point. And I read this, and I read another article. It's on the same topic category, not pro or con, just their assumptions. When I think about and I'm talking about immigration and all that's going on. All of a sudden, it makes sense to me. Can you imagine how many policies are put in place by the White House or whatever, and people put those policies in place not because of what we know, but because of what we don't know? We're going to let people come in because this stuff is happening. We're not going to tell you that, though. And I'm not trying to say it's a conspiracy and stuff like that, but people are whispering in executives' ears going, we need to have this policy. It probably wouldn't be prudent to tell exactly why. And I'm suggesting, based on this conversation, it seems to say to me, you tell me what you see, that by promoting immigration being cut off, that our housing market's going to go to hell. That's what I was reading.
They put and I put zero stock in how deportation or immigration policies go as far as our housing. Number one, especially illegal immigrants cannot purchase. Like, I don't know of any loan program outside the last 10 years that's been in existence where somebody can buy. There might be one, but I don't think illegal immigrants are a big purchaser of housing. And if they leave, then that means zero from zero is still zero. I understand they might be living somewhere or with someone or whatever, but an apartment's demand some of that may go down, but I don't see that affecting, and I don't see it affecting employment with builders. For a long time around here, I thought that they were under the mandate for a year, maybe 10 years ago, that you couldn't hire an illegal immigrant. Like, it would be bad for you on your job site if you were, if that was the case. And I know some people still do, but I don't think it was as rampant as it was back, 30 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever it was. So that's my take on. I think when they want to talk about how immigration is going to affect that, they're off the mark. What we need, we've got so much pent up demand. We need rates to come down, and we'd probably see another housing boom.
And I keep popping this up there because Philip is absolutely right. I've been outbid on so many houses by illegal immigrants. Also, they must be buying up all those $500,000 new builds. Yeah, $500,000 now is like, those are first time buyers, right? But I mean,
they have to be
I'm
paying
not
cash.
Say that again. What?
They have to be paying cash.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm not anti.
Typically the financial outlook of an immigrant. You know what I'm saying? Enough to come in. Not all immigrants. So, like, when we're talking about an immigrant, I'm talking about the ones we talking about from that's coming up through Mexico and all that. Typically, I don't see them. I've never seen any of them with enough cash to buy a house.
Yeah, unless it's now I do know people that large groups of folks would get together and fund one house for several families, like that. I think and I'm not anti anything. That's not true. I'm anti a lot of things. But when it comes to the immigration stuff, all I'm saying, I got to keep putting him in here because Philip is really smart. I respect him a lot. Really, there are a lot of contractors out there with immigrant workers in New York. Yeah, I see. Is that good? Is that good? Is it? I'm struggling with saying you go for it. I,
I mean, it's just, when you think about a person coming here trying to get a better opportunity, they need to do what they need to do. That's the way I look at it. Like if I was
yep.
if I was in Mexico and I had zero opportunity and zero hope, zero
Right.
anything, I would come over. I would absolutely try to get into America and see if I could make a living for myself. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yep.
don't blame them. I'm just thinking, for our country to be viable, for our best use of our money, is to have a border policy that's that where immigrants can come in legally, and
And
you know what I'm saying? Because we can't be, I mean, our country was founded on immigrants. Is like we're immigrants to this place, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
our parents were, if you look at it from the scheme of things. But yeah, so I mean, I'm a big proponent of it. I want immigrants to come in, just do it the right way. I mean,
And and
because I just don't. It takes a melting pot of us to make this country great,
100%.
and just needs to come into where like everybody else, the right way.
And you and I over the years have sold lots of homes to lots of people that are not from this country, and it takes them 10 years to get to become a citizen, or 5 years, or I've known people, and some of my best friends, I'll leave all the demographics out of it. I mean, this guy had like a green card forever, doing it right.
Mhm.
But now by God, he's a citizen. He was first in line saying, you know, Pledge of Allegiance, the whole thing. And if you're going to grow a country, I have compassion for everybody that's struggling. I do. But we're still trying to build a country. And I don't want to get off. I don't want to get sideways with it, but there's a lot of people that are here that work their asses off, and they deserve every bit of success that they're having. And that's
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like when you look at it, a human side. I mean, you can't. It's like you shouldn't have a border, but that's not the way it works. That's not a way a country works when it's funding resources. That's affecting the cities and governments and things like that. It's just you just can't do it. And you just can't do it and have a government for its people when a certain population of the people is not paying into anything and that sort of thing. It's not going to work.
yeah. Well, there's people on this live stream right now that have done very well for themselves because they're smart and they're strong and they're brave, and you and I both know who they are. But I've also heard, and I don't know if there's studies or anything, but I think that there's an idea. People will talk about foreigners coming in and becoming wonderfully successful. And the reason is because they come from a place where you can't have that. But you come here and you can work as hard as you want and create any kind of financial future, any kind of future you want if you're willing to work for it. And for the vast majority of Americans, that's too much work, scroll.
Yeah, yeah. I
But you
mean,
show
if
me
you
a guy
go over
that's
there
been
working,
here. You show
go
me
over
a
there
guy.
and work 50 cents a day or something crazy. Some of those people are working for, in Honduras and in just terrible conditions. Not even that. It's just your safety. A lot of these people are risking murder and all kinds of bad stuff to women coming over, and they're taking this challenge on just to get here. Like
Just
it's so
yeah,
bad that I'm going to run through this gauntlet to get there, just to get away from where I am. So I get all that, and I it's as a human, as a person, it's like they're God's children. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
there
I
shouldn't
agree.
be a border. But when you have a government and you have cost and you have, a country, you should know where your citizens come from. I mean, but that's
Plus, plus, now we have empirical evidence. I think I'm putting that right. Empirical evidence. We have evidence now that you can overrun even a country like the United States, because there's too many people coming to be getting to where we're paying, giving them debit cards and, staying in hotel rooms and everything every night, paying for room and board, basically. You can't do that with millions of people. Golly, what a great, I'm done.
What a crazy topic show, but yeah.
That was good. I loved it. So I think that we're done. We're running over a little bit. Rodney, thank you so much. That was fabulous. Do you have any, and Ange, thank you so much for your participation. Philip, I know Wendy's hanging around there someplace. I love your input. Philip, you always make me a little sweaty, dude. It's like he could pound me to death with his brains. He's a smart guy. Thank you for being with us today. Rodney, any final thoughts?
No, that was a lot today. I'm good.
And so we'll be signing up. We'll see everybody next week, and probably talk about politics again. I don't know.
Yeah,
See y'all next week.
See